Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name is Lee, and welcome to part 2 of my series recording this EP and putting it together, going from a very old way of doing it into hopefully a lot more evolved and more efficient and better results way of doing it. So cue the cute little cartoon intro, and then on the other side we'll get stuck into it. So before we hop onto the computer to evolve these demo tracks into hopefully amazing, brilliant sounding quality EP songs, first thing I've got is my list. So I don't know if you can see it, if I can get it to focus, but I've got the track listings on there with the beats per minute, which I think is very important. So as soon as I start setting up the session, I've got all the information here ready to go. And the other thing I really like about doing it this way is it helps to relearn what the actual songs are called as well. Going from demos, I just have working track titles. They could be, you know, anything. Where these ones are the finalized versions, because after the demo was done, the vocalist came in, did the lyrics, and there's a title for the songs. So it's a really good way to help digest what the new and final title of the songs are going to be. So if you ever get to the point where you've got to start playing these live or doing artwork for them or anything else pretty much you need to do with these songs, you've got to remember what they're called now compared to what they used to. Because it's really easy to get caught into an old trap of calling a song its old title. Especially if you get new band members come along and that too, that only know it as a new title. You don't want them learning two titles just because you haven't done the basic groundwork. So, in saying that, let's hop onto the computer and start setting up this new session. All right, so I've got a new session up here ready to go. So there's two different ways that we can approach this. We can either grab the 5 songs, mix them all individually, do a best of what we can to mimic all over the different 5 sessions, and then render them down and that's it. Or what I like to do, or prefer to do, is have it all in one session. So I'm gonna have each song in their track order, running from start to finish for the whole EP. And then when we render it down or bounce it down or export it, we just export the parts of the tracks that we want. I like doing that because then if we change one little thing on the drums, it's going to change it all for the whole EP. If we change anything with the guitars, any EQing, anything like that, it's going to be perfectly identical throughout the whole thing. Instead of going from session to session trying to bounce and copy all the settings and, you know, creating your own presets and mucking around. It's a hell of a lot more work and not guaranteed that it's going to be emulated as smoothly as this, where it's going to be on the exact same line. So we'll be doing a little bit of fast forwarding through this because there's going to be a lot of clicking and whatnot, sorting it out. But let's run through it anyway as I talk, and then I'll see how much during editing I do. So first thing we need is, I like to divide everything up into folders. So we're going to have a drums folder, add tracks, need instrument, SSL sampler, yep, drums, and excellent. This goes into the drum folder. So while I'm doing everything, it's nice and clean, and yeah. And I'll pick a drum kit later because that is going to be another video's one. I'm going to do the exact same for all the rest. All right, so now I'm going to add some audio tracks to these folders. So what I like to do is, with the bass, have at least 3. Now I'll probably do 4 actually. And we'll get to why it's 1 more than usual in a moment. So there's the 4 there. Make sure they're in the folder, so I'm going to close it. It's all good. Guitars going to be an iffy one. That's going to be, yeah, not quite sure. So make sure they're all mono. I'll rename them all a little bit later because I like to do left, right, center if they're lead, if they're affected, as in got some effects running through them, whether they be delay or lead or, I don't think there's any clean, so don't worry about clean. Let's do 10 tracks for now. And once again, I'll explain that when I get to it in the next section. And the vocals, probably have 6 tracks for this. I forgot to name, that's all right, I'll go through that later on and do it. So next thing I'm going to do before we start talking about all the rest of it is I'm going to start time aligning all this. So the first song I know, Shroud of Doomsday, is at 195. So I go into Project. We go into Tempo Track. I have to remember all that. And then the first part here is going to start at 195. Don't know how to type it in. I'm sure there's a trick way you can do it. I'll probably learn that later on, or someone might help me here to show me how to do it. And then we go here to my main folder. So what I did beforehand to prepare and prep is I went to the demo, all the different demo sections, spent a couple of hours, and I dumped all of it into all the different parts here. So if we go for Shroud of Doomsday, as you can see here, 4 different vocal takes that the vocalist did, split off the guitar to left and right, had the bass and the drums. So these are what I call my ghost tracks. I've heard other people use the term scratch tracks. It's the same shit, exactly the same stuff. Drums though, because they're MIDI, forgot to open it up. Because they're MIDI, all right, to keep that the same, that's no problem at all. So add it here, and for some reason it always dumps it down there, so we'll fix it up right now. Into there. Make sure it hasn't moved. It's on 0, 0, 0. Have it plus, have it minus. There it is there. And GM map, and there it is, all ready to rock and roll. Then what we do is we go bass down the bottom here, and I put Ghost. And then we add our bass in here. Always did it at the very start, so if you add it 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Sound rate, all the rest. Okay. There it is there. We do the same for the guitars. Guitars left and right. We'll add them to 9 and 10. It's going to ask us something, isn't it? Different tracks. Convert, copy it into the folder so they're all there. There they are. All lined up perfectly, ready to go. And we do the same with the vocals. I'll rename them later. Drop them in there. Different tracks. And there everything is lined up, ready to go. And yeah, the vocals can start there. And just to make things a little bit more organised, let's colour these so we know they're Ghost tracks. So Ghost can be that greeny, because that represents Ghost. Who doesn't know that? So while I'm playing along, I can use that as a point of reference, or if I'm, for example, tracking bass first, I've got guitar tracks to play along with to make sure that everything is right and rocking and all in tune, in time, and played to the right characteristics with aggression or whatever characteristics you need to put to it. Then what we'll do from here before we move on is close all those for, I just for close them, is we look at this and we're at bar 160 or 161. We go into Project and Tempo Track, add a marker in there, and the next one is at 170. So I set this all the way down, not that far down, it's actually not 170. So now when we dump the next one in, move you over so we can see, which is Conqueror of the Labyrinth. Drums, they go in here. And of course I hate how it does that, and I don't know why. Up there, like that. Excellent, go back to there. So in all my songs I always have a 2-bar count in. So, oh, I did 2 drums for this, did I? No, one might be my backup drum. It just exported both of them, so I'll get rid of that so I don't get confused, because that's definitely the master one. I always have a 2-bar lead in with all my songs, so that's why when I drop it in here, it looks like it's starting later, but it actually isn't. Because if we dump in, for example, next to the bass, you should see bass ghost. If I drop it right on 161, copy it in, it's all going to line up nice and perfect. Same with the guitars. Drop them in here. And I'm going to put it in fast forward mode now because I'm just going to do this for all of them, and then we'll move on to something, the next thing. So now I've got all the ghost tracks or scratch tracks all set up in the way they are. Now what I'm going to do is start cleaning up this mixing desk a bit to make it more user-friendly and to set it up well so I can actually start doing stuff and it's not just all over the place. So first thing I do is I go in here, and this one's okay. I like this one being all the active tracks. And down here though, I don't like all this. So I like to get rid of all that. Get rid of all that, and those have input, output, and then what I'm going to do is down here, I think I can do it over here too. Yep, add a group track. Group track is going to be stereo, so going in stereo, coming out stereo. The first one is going to be drums. So I'm going to send all the drums to this group bus channel here. So then anything I change here is going to affect all the drums. And I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of it. So drums, guitars, stereo to stereo, add group track, bass, and vocals. And there might be more buses I add later on, whether it be if I want to do like backing vocals, different to lead vocals, I can have them separately, or I might have a different overall EQ for all the rhythm guitars compared to lead guitars or something like that, but this is where it's at now. So then, unfortunately, this is really, really tedious part of it, but it does pay off. We go to the routing up here and we just chuck it in all where it needs to go. So for example, the bass here, we need to go through and put them all in as bass. So once again, I'm going to fast forward this, so you know you can just be around here for the fun stuff. All right, so now they're all routed properly. Next thing I'm going to do is on the top part here, going to get rid of all the little groups here. There is a spelling error there, so whatever, it doesn't matter. So all the group tracks are now gone. I don't want to worry about the input or output. I don't care about the stereo in either because I've got it down the bottom, down here. So that has cleaned it up a little bit easier now. So when we play it, we're going to only see active stuff here and group main buses. So I pretty much look at it as in the top is all the ins coming into the mixer, the beautiful Digital World mixer, and the bottom just being the outs. Because I feel that's the best way to do it, and that's how I learned, and that's how we're setting up. So now that's all done, and that's all set up. So I do have a preset that I do have for all these sessions where I've already done this and saved it, so I can just bring it up and it's like, there's all your preset channels all assigned to the right buses and all looking nice and pretty and all that, but I wanted to run through this from scratch, not only just to show you, but to make sure I'm not leaving any old habits in the old session that I've got set up as well. So before I move on to anything else, I'm going to go to my stereo output, I'm going to go insert, and I'm going to add a limiter. So when I do anything, -1-ish. So when I'm doing anything that's a little bit experimental or swapping stuff in and out, and I might get a huge burst, I'm not going to blow my speakers or my ears. So I've got that as a bit of as a backup, and then when I come closer to doing the final mix, then I'll start mucking around that a little bit more and using that as a good gauge to see how the overall dBs are actually pumping and going through. But yeah, for now, I like to leave it there as a nice safety barrier. Because I like my equipment, I like my ears, I like my monitors, and I don't want anything to get damaged or hurt. and it's just a lot more pleasurable to listen to and easy to work through. So now moving on to the next part, which I am going to move the camera, because the next part is going to be guitars. It could be anything. It could be drums, could be, but let's focus in on guitars, because I think that's the one I've got the biggest question mark on the best way to actually approach it. Because as I spoke about in the previous video, last time I was limited by the lack of VSTs I could use on my guitars. This is going back a fair few years ago, with my old project that I brought up as an example of how I approach it and did it. But this time we don't have that limitation. We've got a great computer, and I've got lots of different plugins that we can use. For example, if I were just to go, these are all not to my liking of sizes yet, so I'll fix it up later. I go to inserts, for example, and we go to other, there's, not sure if that's coming up on the thing, because I don't know where the screen grab is. But just in case, I'll bring it up here, because I know it's going to see it there. If we go here and go into others, there's heaps of different guitar plugins, IR loaders and whatnot. Lots of different really cool stuff that we could potentially use and be a part of it. But in saying that, let's continue this conversation with a slight camera change so I can actually pull up my, I have the amp in frame. So let's have a quick chat about guitars, because for me, guitars is extremely important because I really want to make sure that I'm capturing the right aggression and characteristics that I really need. So guitar tone in this regards is very important. So yeah, let's have a quick chat about homing in on that and see how the best way and how to approach it for this EP. So this might be a little bit more of me asking the questions more so than anything else. So let's go through the quick history. I very first learned how to record guitars by, don't have the speakers here, but there's a speaker down here, I don't know if it's in camera frame or not, miking up that. So there's one option, is miking up the actual cab that I have. You get a nice warm result from that. That's an option. The second way, which I've done things in the past, is use external gear, like, for example, the classic Pod 2.0. Probably wouldn't use that for this. I know you can get some killer results out of that, especially if you use a boost pedal and an enhancing pedal like that to help really bring it to life as well. And you can turn off I think they're called air cabs or something, not quite IRs, but they're equivalently the same thing. The IR things and that to bring in your own third party. My latest one that I am most attracted towards is a what's it called? A hybrid setup, where it's a bit of both. So I use my Angle amp here, running into my 2 notes, into my desk, and then putting a third-party IR in the studio. Because as much as I love VST plugins, and I can be absolutely proven differently, I'm open to that, and to learn and to evolve. The warmth and the characteristics that I get from this Angle is amazing, especially with all my little pedal chains that I do have going. So at the moment, I have running into my Century to make it a little bit cleaner when I'm recording guitars. That into, latest I've been using is it's hard to get up because it's got a lot of cables, the KRS Eros, which really gives it some amazing characteristics with my low tuning. It makes it really aggressive that I love. And I've got another noise killer here at the back just to stop the amp hiss that it naturally gives, and that does a spectacular job. It does a hell of a lot better than what it should do, and I can't explain how, it just does. It does. Yeah, so I got all that running through my 2 notes into my desk here. So the options are, keep to this, because it's what I like, it's what makes me happy and feel warm inside, but I want to try to see if I can get better, or at least have options, so when I do start tracking the guitars, yeah, I can see what's out there and see what else I could do without sitting there and continually, because I don't want to fall into this trap, and I think that's a very important one that I bring this up before you start suggesting a bunch of stuff, is I don't want to record one rhythm guitar 18 different times. I'm happy to do 18 different times to get the right take, but I don't want to do 18 different versions, like one through here, one through the pod, one through the Solar Studio, one through this VST and so forth. I don't want to do that. We're trying to find the most efficient way of doing it as well. Now, don't mind actually doing some work, so if that efficiency could lead to something else, which is what I'm going to propose right now, is an option. Is I can use my direct box here to split the signal. So I can have my guitar running through here, one running through straight my comfort setup, and the other one running straight dry into here, and have two different inputs running into the audio interface. So we can do one, what I like to call a wet take. This is all nice and wet and all soaking and ready to rock and roll. And we have a dry one, which isn't ready, which will need to go through a VST to make it sound more, well, to the end result of what we're after. So that is one option as well. But keen for your thoughts. How do you feel about, or what suggestions would you have to approach and do this? Because it's challenging when approaching this to go, what is the most efficient and best way? Because the options are endless. I have awesome pedals, I got awesome equipment, and saying that I don't want to buy anything else. So if your suggestion is get a Mesa Boogie 4x12, that's not going to happen because I don't have the money for that. And I promote and I like to do my best with myself and others to see how far you can take what you've got as well. And I feel like I've got some pretty decent, respectable equipment to be able to get some killer results. So I don't want to, go out there and spend all the money when I shouldn't have to or need to. So that's where I'm at for the next stage. So definitely keen for your suggestions and what your thoughts are. And yeah, we can see where tracking the guitars next is going to take us. And then we're going to have the exact same discussion with, which we can have right now, bass. Bass, I normally go just dry in here. Sometimes I add a pedal. When I mic up my bass cab, that is really warm and really nice. I did a couple of videos of those, I think last month or definitely this year. And the results really, really surprised me on how much body I got out of the bass by going through the amp and micing up that way rather than just going straight dry and manipulating it solely after the facts. So I don't know what the best way and how to approach it. If I do another one where I split the bass off and do one with maybe a distortion pedal for the dirty stuff and have a clean signal going through there as well, because you can just have them both recorded and then pick which one you want clean and dirty, or have the clean one there and I've got the Dark Glass Neural plugin, which is an awesome bass thing. I've got the Duality as well by Audio Assault, so that's an option as well. So yeah, bass and guitar thoughts. I'd love to hear them, so please let me know what you think. And then hopefully that can help shape me to see what the best way is on how to approach the string part of the EP. And then after that, we'll try to figure out the best way on how to approach drums to get some killer drum sounds using the Steven Slate drums. And exactly the same with the vocals. So thank you very much for joining me in this video, in this series, and hopefully you're excited to see how this is going to go, because I am super excited and I'm really keen to see how much I can push myself and evolve as a, not just as an engineer, but as a muso engineer when you're recording your own stuff. Because I feel when you're recording your own stuff, it's really hard to not wear too many hats at the same time. Because there's a point where you wear too many hats when you're thinking about the guitars, the guitar playing, the guitar tone, the guitar characteristics, the this, the that, what frequencies are popping out here and there, what's doing that, what's doing this, and you're wearing too many hats and something is going to get lost and something is going to get overlooked. Or what I have seen in the past, which I've done personally and I've seen other engineers do as well, they get to a point where they say that will do, and they settle what I feel to be too early on something which they could have invested more time or had more passion in or given more focus and really homed in on more. And that is one thing I'm definitely not going to do with this. And that's why we're doing this type of running backwards and forwards through it to try get away from that and not fall into that little trap, because it is a very easy trap to fall into. So thank you very much for joining me in this video and listening to me ramble and just talk about something that I'm super, super excited about. And yeah, definitely keen to hear what you have to say. So until next time, stay safe.